Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney. Brains, you've hit the spot. The place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Put your thinking caps on, because the conversation starts now.
I was flipping out. And the only reason, girl, I have to tell you, the only reason I have a vision board is because I am a nut for certifications. I was getting certified to do the vision board workshops with Debbie Slews and her Dare to Declare Academy. And I do this and I'm semi-woo, right? I'm very spiritual. But when you get into the physics of everything, I find it fascinating. And I'm doing this vision board. I'm looking at it. It's off to the side, and I'm putting up, mountains and glaciers and just all the fundamental powers of the earth. And I'm just thinking this is so cool. And is it going to come true? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, these are the things I want, right? I want my podcast to slay. I want my books to be bestsellers. I want, well, I've already done that, but every book forthcoming to also be a bestseller.
Right.
All the things. It's up here on this board. I kid you not. My husband comes home and says, "Hey, my company's sending me to Vancouver for a conference." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I'm here in free hotel room. I'll see you there. And so then he says, "I nearly died, April." I don't know who this man became in that moment. Alaskan cruises leave out of Vancouver. What if we went up a week early? Yes. Am I asleep? What is happening? And so sure enough, I go and I'm obsessed with booking to see the glacier, the glacier trip, right? Do the side excursion. And we do, but even aside from that, the pilot of the flippin' cruise ship coasts us in and just as slow and easy as you please turns the boat side and then to the other side. So everyone can see the gorgeous, beautiful glacier and hear it as the thunder roars and it calves and the huge chunks come falling down, which we just spoke about is kind of heartbreaking, but it was so fundamentally.
It's mesmerizing. And also too, you have a newfound appreciation just for nature itself.
Yes.
The nature walks and the fresh air. The air is so fresh. All the food on the cruise ships. I absolutely love cruising. That is my jam. I
love it.
But you know what? You talked about some very important things. Oh, Brains, I forgot to introduce what we was doing here. We're having a podcast with Mel Trumble. Okay, Melissa. She's a podcaster, she's an author, she's a mama, she's a friend, she's a cruiser. This lady is just so fun, and we're going to have a great conversation. I love the eyewear. She is just all that and a bag of chips. But you're at your favorite place, where the conversation is pointed and the guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. We were just talking about our trip to Alaska. If you've never been, it's somewhere that you need to go. But as we were talking about, everything must change. How she got the trip, well, she manifested it. Now, Brains, we're going to talk about that too. Because manifestation is not just about creating the vision board, which she did. That's the blueprint. Okay? That's the visual. You got to show up. You got to do the work. You got to be prepared. You've got to be focused, and you've got to speak to the subconscious mind to bring whatever you want forward. Wouldn't you agree, Mel?
100%. And we have to know we deserve it. Absolutely. That trick, because when we don't
for it, and you also have to be able to accept the consequences. Because just imagine, what if you got everything you ever wanted, Melissa? You'd be a hot mess. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree 100%. We are not ready for the things we are not ready for. And we can think that every success and every love and every wonderful thing is just around the corner and we're almost there and we may get it. And if we're not prepared and we haven't done the mindset work and tamed that subconsciousness, we're not going to be able to keep it.
It's just like laundry.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you hear about lottery winners, they're on top of the world. And the next thing you know, they've lost everything plus more. And because they weren't prepared. And so what I love about vision boards, and I am a recent convert, let me tell you, I love getting certified and stuff, right? So I'm certified. I'm going to be a vision board workshop master. Da, 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 da. I go to the Dare to Declare Academy. I'm there. I'm with Debbie Sluice. She's the OG.
Mm.
I'm looking over my vision board. I do this in January. All right. And I'm maybe doubting it, but I've done a lot of subconscious work, right? I've done it, like that's why I wrote my book, was to help people and show people if I can get my act together. Every
Right,
single one of us can.
right.
And, then that led, of course, to the coaching and the podcast and all the things. And we'll get to that. But I'm looking at this vision board and I put this gorgeous picture of these huge mountains with a glacier on it. And
Mm.
to me, it was just so powerful and just the most spiritual, most connected thing I could think of, right? I no more have an idea of me being at the site of a glacier than the man in the moon. And
Wow.
then about 8 weeks after that, my partner says, "Hey, company's sending me to Vancouver for a conference." And I'm like, that says free hotel room. I shall join you. Because I can work from anywhere, right? Then this person rearranges their DNA, looks me straight in the eye and says, Alaskan cruises leave from Vancouver. What if?
Mm.
And I mean, April, my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, who are you? Yes, let's
Right.
go.
But when the student is ready, the teacher always appears.
It was
Always
incredible.
appears. And I take mine a step further. I don't know if you've ever read the book Think and Grow Rich.
Love it. Napoleon Hill. Mm-hmm.
Well, I incorporated the last chapter. I don't create a vision board. I have created a board of directors. Now it's very personal and very intimate, brain, so I'm not going to show it to you.
Okay.
But on the whiteboard are the people that I admire spiritually, financially, holistically, ghetto, ride or die.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to this individuals. I put this board up and I hold a board meeting every 2 weeks. The insight that is channeled through that is unbelievable. Well, I'm the CEO. I'm at the top. But
of course.
But to metaphorically be able to connect to other spirits, to other realms, people call it hoo-hoo, but it has nothing to do with your religious doctrine, but it has everything to do with ascending to a spiritual realm, which is 100%. Much more powerful than what we read in the text. It's
absolutely.
And it's a compliment to that, but people get it confused and, they will come about the ground, girl, literally, if you say anything in the contrary. So you've been through a lot. Let's dial back. Let my brains get to know who you are.
All right. In the world. It's coming at y'all, brains. So I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and my parents had the forethought to get married at 18 and 19 years old and immediately start having child after child after child. Ultimately, there were 9 of us.
Wow.
And you want to talk some effective birth control? Any of y'all dealing with teenagers or young people? You go to your parent who's got 9 children and say, how did you plan it? Because it looked like it was kind of planned the way the ages fell. And after she stopped rolling laughing, she let me know the only ones that were planned were the first one and the last one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Scary. That was that's a thread in the tapestry. But having that many children and being so young, you can imagine the stress. And I'm not making excuses, but it was a very abusive situation. And it was just like a rolling door of whatever kind of abuse was going to land on you, because they were battling their own demons. And say what you will about the boomers, they did not come from any kind of emotional awareness or emotionally healthy dialogue, right? It was just suck it up.
They was trying to get some because I'm sure that the breast was drying up. They was trying to get some milk and food on the table and be responsible. And then the pecking order. You guys, now what number are you?
I'm the second.
You're the second. Oh, wow. So you had a lot of responsibility.
I did. And I also, unknowingly then, of course, the 70s not being exactly the hotbed of psychology or
Hmm.
psychiatric knowledge, I'm neurodivergent. I spent a lot of time climbing to get away from people and busyness and confusing things. I was totally overwhelmed by visual clutter, which hello, 9 kids, and loud noises. Again, 9 kids. And I was sort of the lightning rod for a lot of it. And I mean, ultimately, I was like, well, if I'm gonna take a beating anyway, I'm just gonna do what I want. And so I think that is what held me able to go through life and to deal with all of this horrible stuff, being like, it'll be over. And I just somehow managed to learn that very young. And I also managed to remember being really joyous and just being delighted and excited to see what the world was going to offer, which, as much as that tried to kick it out of me, the world did.
Right.
Um, I still remember that I can go back. And that's why I'm so motivated with my coaching and with the nonprofit is I want grant writing, a business to do that so that mindset work can get into the schools. So young kids who don't have maybe that good of a memory and don't happen. I just remember things from when I was really young, like
Right.
not even
And
speaking yet.
now I was telling one of my other guests is that schools are really incorporating mindfulness, emotional freedom technique,
Mhm.
meditation,
Meditation.
Tai Chi, yoga, instead of shaming and blaming and ostracizing these children. They're really trying to work with
Yeah.
them and medicating. They're really trying to work in a harmonious balance. But it's hard when you get that love and nurturing and then you go into a chaotic situation because
Yep.
you gotta go back home. And then for that
Mhm.
10, 12 hours is hell. And then you go back to school. So there is an imbalance there that causes a lot of trauma. When did you find your awakening and your clarity? And you say something's not quite right. I might need to make some adjustments. What was your aha moment?
Um, it was a string of them. I definitely, my school sent my family to counseling, because of me and my behavior, because I was so bored. And I would just do, and I would jump out of a window and, be on the playground. This was like seventh, eighth grade, I think. And, it just, at first it was ridiculous and I thought it was a waste of time. But once it was just the counselor and myself, I realized the talk therapy was really effective. And so then I found, on my bicycle, I found a therapist who would trade babysitting, which I was eminently qualified, having so many siblings. So I would ride my bike to her place and she would, do therapy with me. And then I would, babysit her sweetie pie little boy, variously. And so I did that all through high school. And then I
There,
just kept,
there's another clear example of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear because, in all transparency, she's helping you go through some emotional, mental challenges, but she's
mhm,
also trusting you with her most prized possession,
yeah,
and she's doing a trade-off because she knows that there's a need there. So bravo to her wherever she is in.
absolutely. Absolutely. Tip of the hat, Rebecca. Mwah. And, but I just kept creating chaotic home lives. I married one person. It was terrible, disastrous. I couldn't understand how it was so terrible. I was raised Catholic, so I was going to stay come hell or high water, but not come Hurricane Katrina.
Mm.
So that happened. He said he wanted a divorce. I'm crying on the floor. My sisters find out I was working for our dad. He had a CPA firm and jobs are hard to come by in New Orleans, just saying. And or they were then.
Life is rough in New
Yeah,
Orleans. I mean, that is,
that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've
So
got
my
grandkids
sisters,
that live in Bastrop.
okay, yeah,
That's a woo.
it's gritty.
Yeah, it's what I think it's the seventh worst city
Hmm.
in the United States.
I mean, we used to be first. I'm joking. I make jokes about it because what are you going to do when where we would come in first? It would be, like joie de vivre and, all the carnival stuff and all the spiritual stuff. But then it would also be diabetes and heart disease and, depression and suicide and murder.
Well, you know what? The first time I came to New Orleans, when I got off the plane, I was like, I'm not impressed. Okay. But as I grew, day 2, day 3, day 4, there is a certain energy that overcomes you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain energy, and people don't really understand that that was a main thoroughway for the slave trade. And they don't understand the culture of voodoo and what that is. And the voodoo
Oh, it's huge.
it'll call you in like this. And my husband's going, "You sure you want to go in there?" I said, "I am super curious." And
Mhm.
they explained what it is, voodoo versus the I can't even say it, Catholicism,
Mhm.
and how we as Black people had to succumb and acculturate and assimilate to that, but also keep our native, tribal, indigenous culture and roots.
Mhm.
It's a magic to it. There is a magic to that place like no other. The
Right.
food is divine, the music is divine, but there
Mhm.
is a spirit that wavers and wobbles. So as you said, some people call it hoo-hoo. Firsthand, you've seen it, you've grown up with it,
Mhm.
and it can be so challenging for individuals. So what did you find, as you started to evolve, again, being Catholic and going through this, and now where you are today, where do you find those things intersect and really, have allowed you to blossom?
That is such a good question. So for me, it all came together after I was 47 years old. I realized for the second time, I created a terribly chaotic situation. I still firmly believed in a higher spirit, if you want to call it the universe or God or whatever you want to say. I do no longer identify as a Catholic. I'm not a big fan of organized religion. I think the ideas are great, but the execution is really, that's a very tough thing for people to feel very passionately about their creator to have it not be negative. I don't understand why that has to be negative in some way, that it's this group of people and not another. But that's a conversation for another
Or a
day.
punishment. Why do if this is a true loving God, why do we have to sacrifice and be, punished and be fearful?
Exactly. The fear is negative. Fear is that's what you got to get out of your subconsciousness. I mean, that's some hard, well, I don't want to say it's hard work. It is consistent work.
Right.
And, my whole message is if I can do this, if I can wake up with a smile on my face and a song in my heart,
Mhm.
anybody can. Because I was told growing up again and again, you're too smart. Nobody's going to want to marry you. You're
Mm.
too mouthy. You're going to be a terrible mother. And I was terrified to have my own children just because of how I was raised. And I knew my parents loved us,
Right.
but my goodness, no, 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 no. I did not want to play in that. And when I did become pregnant, I placed the child for adoption. And I've been lucky enough to be a very involved step parent. And that I just loved, I mean, and I volunteer to work with kids. And, my latest love for volunteering, this is irrelevant. Don't know why I'm saying it, but yes, I will tell you, April, it's teaching ESL. I
You know
love
what?
it.
And you know what I've been called to do? I've been called to be an activity director for a senior citizen center.
I love it. You are
You
going to,
know what? But I'm telling you, I'm gonna have those seniors partying in a wheelchair. Okay.
yes, yes, get the
We are
tunes.
exactly. We're gonna have them playing the tambourine because life is not over. Life is ever evolving. Let's talk a little bit about your nonprofit. What is the
Excellent.
focus?
I'm sorry, what?
What is the focus?
The focus is on getting grant writers to put in, to bring awareness to the smaller school districts, because I recognize that a lot of the more cultural centers, for lack of a better term, places where people are aware of, meditation and yoga and Tai Chi and, all of these wonderful tools, that they are being used. But when you get down into, like, I live near DC in Northern Virginia now, but you get down into Southern Virginia, you get down into Louisiana, And a lot, especially in the South, a lot of it is, why do you want to talk about that?
Right.
Like there's like,
You heard what happened today. The Supreme Court,
I can't even.
There's no forgiveness for the college students.
No.
I understand in a way. There's tons and tons and tons of people that had to pay their way. But how do we progress forward? Let us have a clean slate. But I don't know what them 9 of them is in there doing. They are turning back the hands of time. But that's another show.
Yes.
So now let's talk about the book. You are
All
a
right.
very accomplished author. Let me see a copy of that book.
This book, the big book of bad ideas, my darling.
The big, look at that. That is absolutely amazing. It is the big book of bad ideas, adulting from anxiety to 0 fucks given. Wow. What is that all about?
All right. So ZFG, that is my mantra. We do not give ourselves away. Our fucks, our Fs, that's our resources, that's our care, our time, our money, our focus, our loving hearts. And I just gave myself away for decades. I didn't think I was worth anything. I grew up in this like hive mind of this big family, where the individual was at best an inconvenience, and more likely just something you didn't want to be an individual. And I am nothing if not individual. So you can imagine how I was sort of a lightning rod in that household for negative attention.
Well, you are a free spirit. So what's inside the pages of the book?
So this details some of my less functional choices made as an adult as I was going through life and through the decades. And my whole point with this book is to help people not make the mistakes I made, to recognize themselves in seeing how, okay, you come from a hive mind, so you don't have an individual will. And therefore, how is that going to affect your choices as a young adult, as a middle-aged adult? Because note, I did not get my act together and find mindset work until I was 47 years old. And I've been in therapy my whole dang life. And I've been on meds when I had health insurance. When I wasn't, I was drinking too much. But, I knew that I had work to do. And I've always, always done it. And for me to be able to share mindset tools with people so that they can unearth that joyous, wonderful human creature that they are and bring that beautiful soul to light. I always say we're a miracle. We are lightning, ocean water, and minerals.
Exactly. But when people have been pushed down and been suppressed, and they open up this big can of worms, it's scary because it's a whole different new reality that you have to settle into. When you're self-medicating and you have to deal with the world as it actually is, when you have been through talk therapy, and this is no disrespect to people that talk therapy, is very important. But what I get a little confused with is if you've lived it for 20 years and then you're still talking to your therapist for 10 years, when is the breakthrough going to happen? When is the realization of what's going to happen?
That's more mechanical than we recognize.
Absolutely.
There's processes to do. And I might be smart, but I'm not a rocket science when it comes to emotions and all that kind of stuff. I taught myself.
Right.
And these methods are available for anyone. And if you don't have to work with someone, if you want to do it on your own, that's the harder way. And that's what I did. But that's why I'm a coach now.
That's why you're resilient. And everyone's not going to have that. If you need support and you need someone to talk to, reach out. Absolutely.
Community.
There's community, there's NAMI, there's all types of programs, because mental health is really at the forefront right now, and people are trying to get help. That's a scar that we can't see. And it's scary because you don't know, somebody can go from a flicker to a flame. And the first thing you say is, oh, did you read their social media posts? They've been saying that they're, this and that and this for the longest time, and nobody's paid attention. Or you got a child that is in the room and the door is locked and you can't get in. I wish I would have a kid in my house and I can't get in their door. We would have some issues there. Or, guns or drugs. All of these things if people are having these challenges, number one, you got to be self-aware and you got to
Yes.
want to be better. You know when something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
You know when something's not right. Ask
Oh
for
yeah,
help. And if you see
absolutely.
that somebody is struggling, ask them, can you help? Sometimes they just want you to sit there in silence and hold space with them.
And it's a very hard thing to say, I don't know what's wrong, but this isn't good. My life isn't there. I can't put my finger on it because we don't know when we're in the middle of it. And it's sometimes it's hard because people will be like, oh, you're fine. Just don't be sad. Cheer up, and things like that that kind of slap you back down a little bit. But keep looking. There's a Facebook group for every single thing. There are people like I am out there who are more than happy to share their own stories. People are, you want to say abuse? Fine. You want to say incest? Okay. That's even more specific. That's fine. Because people act like all of these things are such dark, dark things that never happened to anybody. That is
Right.
baloney in the biggest order.
But it's the shame associated with it too.
Exactly.
And
And you're raised in that bad system. You don't know any better. You're a kid.
and you know what? When you're vulnerable and you're honest, sometimes my mama used to always say, baby, don't get nobody ammunition to fight you with.
Mm-hmm.
So you're out there and you're trying to be honest and vulnerable, and then you got somebody right behind you that is like a switchblade. They're ready to cut you down.
Yes.
So I
And
want to
even,
hear about the book, though, before I get too far into this. You said that you were going to read us an excerpt. Read
all
us
right.
an excerpt of the book and tell us
Okay.
what's into it.
All right. Let's see. Okay. All right, here we go. As you move through life, focus more on what people do than on what they say. I grew up believing what people told me, which is a riot, since my childhood was based on lying by presenting a smiling face individually as well as en masse, rather than operating with any authenticity. I spent 7th grade sneaking into university beer bashes after volleyball practice. Even while in my church parish, I won medals in the New Testament gospel competitions. Miraculously, nothing really bad ever happened to me or to my friend who went with me to burp our way through plastic cups of draft beer.
Mm, 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 mm.
So,
Well, children go through that.
mhm.
But what is the reason? Sometimes it's experimental. Sometimes it's peer pressure. Sometimes
Right.
it's escape.
And for me, it was curiosity. I was
Right.
like, what is this college thing? What is that? What are these people doing that don't look that different? Because I hit puberty like a freight train when I was 11 years old. Like I looked the same as them.
But that's a pretty adult crowd for you to kind of hang around because they're pretty wild.
It
But
was some
and
miracle.
again, Brains, you have to understand the culture in Louisiana. You got drive-through margarita stands like you got a fast food restaurant. You can drive through and get you a margarita. So it's
Don't
not
be limiting us, April. There are daiquiris of all kinds and flavors.
Yeah, that's what it is. Not margaritas, it's daiquiris, and they are good. Let me tell you. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not skimpy on the alcohol. They are
Mm-mm.
not.
Mm-mm.
So, but it's a different time. It's a different place. So I
That
totally,
was also, that was also in the early 80s.
yeah. Well, it's still 2000 now. Kids are doing here in California. They're trying to make psychedelics legal. Magic mushrooms. Yes. And the weed, girl, let me tell you about the weed. The weed is not what it used to be.
It is enginered now.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It used to be 3% THC, is 38%. Folks are in the emergency room, respiratory, circulatory
Totally
problems.
different.
It's crazy. Circulatory problems. People's hands and feet are swelling up like cankles because of the super duper weed. So don't get caught up in the hype. Things are changing. Everything is genetically modified.
Everything.
The
Totally
food,
agree.
all of that. So how was life in Virginia? Do you like Virginia?
I will tell you this. I came up here, I was in shock, right? Because my husband said he wanted a divorce. I come up here, Hurricane Katrina happens while I'm up here. I was a wreck. And then, after getting my things together and kind of assimilating more and getting used to the crowds, that was huge. Culture shock over the density of the population. And they were so boring. I couldn't believe that people held their individual perspective close, like it was a precious gem that should not be shown to anyone. And everyone wanted to act the same. at the jobs that I worked, at the places I volunteered, I was just like, I mean, I know I can be kind of out there, but like, I'm not that out there, I'm
Special. You are special.
well, thank you. That's very kind.
And
But
special, I mean unique, you know?
as are we all. We are all God's children. We are all children of this amazing complex DNA structure, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so to be in this sort of politicized, where your guard always has to be up, and this was back in 2005. This has nothing to do with the recent, like, past 5-10 years of schism. And people just wanted to hide themselves. And so I was working in finance. I worked at CPA firms. I was just as buttoned down as I could possibly be. And it kind of made me nuts. And so launching out of the second marriage, that I realized that it was just as chaotic as everything else in my life. And then realizing, like, this isn't for me. This is not for me. And that's when COVID hits. And so then that's when the wheels start turning. I'm like, I'm writing this dang book. End of story. I'm writing it. And it just opened up my world. And it was because I know that I have helped people. Even just when I released the first, like, chapter or two, people would email me and say, thank you so much. Like, this made me feel so much better. And the exercises in your book are so much helping me. And because I was like, if I can take somebody who's kind of, living ratchet, and, like, if they're going to go up and straight into, like, hell on wheels, right? Well, if I can just tick them over a little bit, look at the difference, and that was my whole philosophy. I'm like, let me help younger me, the people who are like, my life is a misery and I can't figure it out.
I know. Let's talk about the podcast. How in the world did you get on air?
Look at mouth, please. I was just like, I started my podcast last December. The first couple episodes are terrible. If you just want to laugh, you should listen to them. And then
it's all about a learning process.
Oh
boy. All about a learning and finding your space, finding your pace, finding who your audience is, what you want to talk about, the value. People think that it's easy. Oh, okay, I'm just going to put a mic in front of my mouth, and it's just, no, you did a really good little short video, about 11 minutes, about how you prepare yourself. You have to be prepared. You want to know your topic. You want to have an outline. You want to time yourself. You want to be clear. You want to remove the filler words. You have to decide whether you want to do commentary or if you want to do guest interviews. It's a lot to it. Editing, putting it up. They think that this is shit and giggles, but it is not. It's work.
No, there's a lot to it. And the root of any of it for me is I know that I'm helping people.
Me too.
I know that there are people who are mystified about mindset work. And so I just did an arc of 5-6 episodes just explaining what it is. What is the subconscious? How can we change it? Is it really as simple as, doing mantras or whatever? And it's not. There's more to it, but it's accessible. Everybody can do this stuff.
They can. Well, but you got to do it and show up. You can't you just can't go into the voodoo shop and get some powder.
There are not enough chicken claws in the world.
No. Chicken claws. You're funny. You can't do that. It's not, and you have to be in alignment.
Yeah.
And again, you have to be prepared for what comes up, because it's not always going to be a trip to Alaska. It's not always going to be, it's going to be some times where you were damaged and you were hurt, and you've got to face that demon. You've got to overcome that hurdle. You got to say, hey, get to this certain point. But when you get to that point, let me reframe it. I don't have to relive that trauma again.
No, because we're not defined by our past, and we can integrate that stuff to be part of us. And I always say it's another thread in life's rich tapestry. You can't have that rich depth of color without the darker threads.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you are amazing, and you are so cotton picking fun. I do these things. I haven't done one in a long time, but I'd love to do one with you. It's called a podcast potluck. And that
sounds fun.
I bring in a guest and you bring in a guest.
Okay.
And we sit and we vibe and we talk. And it could be anything from soup to nuts. So, Brains, I want you to look forward to that. I'm sending Mel an invitation right now for us to get together and do a podcast potluck because I like to banter back and forth. Whether we agree or disagree, we don't have to be disagreeable. And information
100%.
is only powerful when it is applied. So thank you so much, Mel. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you and purchase a copy of the book.
Thank you so much, April. So y'all come over to zfgliving.com. You can check out the book. You can check out what I'm offering. You can look at the vision board workshop, all the good stuff. I am here to help you. Please, please check it out. Sign up for the freebie. You'll be on my email list and let me reach out. Just reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I believe I'm also on TikTok. Gosh, only knows. But I'm always available at melissa@zfgliving.com. Hugs, hugs.
Well, Brains, I need you to go in for both of us. Love, like, share, and subscribe. That's how we keep it flowing. Love, like, share, and subscribe. Share this with someone that you know that's going through it. It's real relaxed. It's real easy. You don't have to overthink it. You've done that already. Now it's time to just relax and kick back. Put the weed down. Put the drink down. Open the heart up. Okay? That's what we want you to do. Thank you so much, Melissa. You are the business, baby.
Thank you for having me, April.
All right. Bye, Brains.